The story begins with the protagonist of the Baskerville family, a hound. The Baskerville family had a loyal hound who was sentenced to the guillotine for false charges of associating with the demon clan. As he faced his death, he made a promise that if he were to live again, he would not live as a hound again. Afterwards, Vikir woke up in a cradle, disoriented and confused. He thought he might need help as his surroundings were loud and his body felt heavy. It looked like he was currently in a nursery as there were many crying children. Meanwhile, the Baskerville family patriarch, Hugo Baskerville, was inspecting the children's cradle. He roamed around the room and noticed children crying, and he dismissed them as insignificant and even referred to them as trash. However, when he approached the Vikir, he noticed that the child was quieter than the others. Hugo ordered for the Vikir to be moved to the Cradle of Swords, and his attendant obeyed without question. As the Vikir lay in the cradle, he looked up at Hugo with pure hate. Vikir knew that Hugo was the main culprit behind his false charges and subsequent execution because of his eyes. He realized that he had been regressed to when he was a baby and that he had lived his past life as a hound for the Baskerville family. Hugo was born into an illegitimate family and received training in a poor environment. He had been raised to be a loyal hound willing to do any dirty work required of him to make the Baskerville family the best of the 7 families. Hugo had stayed loyal to the family and to Hugo because he wanted to be acknowledged. However, his loyalty was ultimately repaid with a death sentence. The reason behind his execution was simple: he knew too much. The figure swore that he would never live that life again and that he would take his revenge. However, with his newborn body, he knew that he couldn't do anything. Being moved to the Cradle of Swords was a good opportunity for Vikir to become stronger. Children born into the Baskerville family had to go through one trial called the Cradle of Swords. They were thrown into a maze of swords, and after going through that, they had to get to the Styx River to be examined for their talent. The Styx River was a legendary river that turned the bodies of children into higher beings. However, there was a limit to how many children it could affect. So, being able to reach it faster was crucial. The only way to reach the Styx River first was to head straight out of the helix-shaped wall of blades, which was no easy feat as Vikir crawled through the Cradle of Swords maze. He couldn't help but think about his past life. He had been ousted by his siblings and couldn't receive the effect he so desperately needed. But this time, things would be different. He was determined to monopolize the Styx River's blessing for as long as he could as he made his way through the maze, and then he suddenly fell into the Styx River. The water seeped deep into his body and bones through his cuts, causing him intense pain. But he knew that he had to endure it for as long as he could. He couldn't let this opportunity slip away from him. Outside the maze, Vineyard's attendants were shouting for him to come out. They were worried that Vikir would die if he stayed underwater any longer. The Vikir was determined to hold on for as long as possible. Meanwhile, Hugo watched with expectation in his eye. Yes, the Baskerville family head butler, John Barrymore, asked how much time had passed since Vikir had gotten in the river. Barrymore responded that around 7 minutes had passed. Hugo laughed and said that Vikir might die. The attendants looked at him with worry, requesting the patriarch to save Vikir. Hugo called out to Vikir, telling him that he could come out of the water now, but the Vikir was too busy absorbing the Styx River water to pay attention. He thought to himself that he couldn't give up this opportunity so easily. He needed to absorb as much as he could, until the very end, but then he started to fall down. Water entered his mouth. Despite the danger he was in, Vikir knew that he needed to endure. He kept repeating to himself, "Endure, endure, endure." It looked like Vikir was about to drown, but Hugo pulled him out of the water with a smug smile on his face. He commented on how greedy Vikir was for even drinking the water from the Styx River. He then noticed that Vikir had already emptied it. Surprised, Hugo asked the head butler for Vikir's name. "Have you learned that?" It was Vikir, the man from Baskerville. Hugo smiled and said that a very greedy son had been born, a figure who is still somewhat conscious. Vikir thought to himself that he needed to use this time to sharpen his canines and secrets. He was determined to rip his master's head off when the time came, and he would do it with his own hands. The Baskerville family would disappear into history by his own hands. Vikir van Baskerville was born as the bastard son of Hugo Baskerville, a renowned nobleman of his time. At the tender age of 8, it was apparent that Vikir possessed extraordinary intelligence that far surpassed his peers. However, within the Baskerville family, he was considered nothing but ordinary as he did not possess the direct lineage of the family's prominent bloodline. As Vikir grew older, he began to explore different fields of interest, eventually settling on the treacherous paths of assassination and conquest. By the time he had reached the age of 20, he had already embarked on several missions that showcased his impressive skill set. But despite his achievements, Vikir still felt inadequate in comparison to those of direct lineage. At the age of 30, the gate leading to the demonic realm had opened, signaling the beginning of a terrifying invasion by the demonic clients. Now, a seasoned warrior stepped up to defend his realm, engaging in battles that saw him slaughter monsters left and right for the next 5 years. Vikir endured through the year of destruction, fighting tirelessly to protect his people. And when the long war finally came to an end, it was the humans who emerged victorious. For his unwavering loyalty and bravery, Vikir was rewarded by the kingdom. However, the reward he received was not what he expected. Instead of being praised and celebrated for his efforts, he was met with unfounded accusations and false allegations. These claims led to Vikir's eventual execution by the guillotine's blade. He sat upon his bed, realizing that he was in a nursery. He looked around and came to the realization that he had successfully absorbed the Styx river. This was a major achievement, and he knew that he now had a better starting point in life than before. Suddenly, he heard the door open, and a man entered the room. The maid seemed surprised and murmured to herself, saying, "Why did Madam ask to place this sort of thing on the bed of the young master Vikir here?" Vikir was surprised to hear the maid refer to Madam, as he never expected anyone in the Baskerville family to give him a present. At present, the maid left after placing a box in Vikir's bed. As Vikir saw the box opening, he was shocked to see 2 bloody members coming out of it. He wondered if Madam had sent them to assassinate him. Do you know that there were only a few people in the Baskerville family who would be referred to as Madam? And whoever it was, she was probably trying to reduce competition. As the members hissed at Vikir, he realized that they could kill all of the babies in the nursery. However, Vikir caught both the members with his bare hands filled with hatred. He thought that he would bring the entire Baskerville family down with his own 2 hands. The next day, the people of Baskerville were shocked to find the child sleeping peacefully next to the dead vipers. All the nannies who had been on shift that night were executed after torture, but the reason for it is unclear. The level at which the aura is solid and the form can freely be changed is called Swordmaster, which is the highest level of swordsmanship. Upon hearing that Sir Hugo, the strongest of the Baskervilles, was a swordmaster, all the students present exclaimed in surprise and astonishment. However, Vikir was lost in thought and felt the need to regain the power he had prior to his regression before the coming-of-age ceremony. The teacher noticed Vikir's distracted state and thought highly of him, knowing that Vikir had earned an am physique by diving in the Styx river for 7 minutes. The teacher believed that Vikir was much more talented than the other students and that the patriarch would be very happy to know about his progress. As Vikir was lost in thought about how many years he needed to kill Hugo, he didn't notice the triplets' brothers giving him an evil look. After class was over, the triples' brother pushed him and started mocking him, calling him a garbage fan and talking about the rumors about him diving in the Styx river and strangling 2 vipers to death. Vikir remembers when he was just a baby, he was stabbed by the triplets who he recognized. After the incident, they were known as Hugo the Baskervilles, with Trident, High Barola Baskerville, Middle Borough the Baskerville, and Low Barola Baskerville being their names. At 9 years old, the triplets continued to taunt Vikir and accused him of lying, which made him think that they were going to be a real pain in the ass. He was just 10 years old at the time and thought it might be a good idea to put them in their place. Now, as Vikir stood before the triplets, one of them brandished a knife and taunted him with a rumor he had heard. What happened next? What do you guys think? Thanks for watching the video. The next part will be added here once it's uploaded. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more, please subscribe to our channel.